What we did is we flew from Tel Aviv to Eilat, which is in the southern part of Israel, right on the border into Jordan. So you fly, just a quick little 45-minute flight or so.
Arkia.
An Israeli airline. They pick you up. And you get in buses, you drive to the border, you cross the border, which that just took forever. There were so many of us. It's just they're not very fast. They have to process your visa because you have to pay for your visa across.
Let's stop there and talk about what actually happened before we got into the airport at Tel Aviv. So we're in Tel Aviv's second airport, so not the international airport, but the domestic one, which was actually closer to where all of us were staying. And we were told to get there early, and thankfully we did, because like before you even get into the airport, you have to wait outside of the airport for the airport to open up, because you're there like so early in the morning for this crazy tour to Petra, and then they're like interrogating virtually every group that's coming in.
So apparently this is normal for flying domestically. You don't get it as much coming in and out, we noticed, because we had never experienced this, but this was our first flight domestically within Israel, and it is your group goes and it's a big interrogation.
Huge.
So with us, what ended up happening is I was the one who booked the tour for all 6 of us. So Trevor talked to the guy first, and he said, well, Kaylee's the one who booked it. So then I went up, and they ended up separating me from the group, and I spoke with another guy who was apparently one of the supervisors. I spoke with him. Trevor spoke with another guy, and then these 2 guys got together and discussed if our answers matched up. And it was questions like, where do you work? How do you know the group that you're traveling with? What's in your bag? My passport, of course, is filled with all over being in the Middle East, and then living in Singapore, Malaysia and Indonesia, all over the place. So lots of questions about what we were doing there, asking why didn't you go home to celebrate Christmas with your family, things like that. It was pretty intense. I mean, I was just being truthful, of course. I have nothing to hide, but you feel a little nervous, and you're like, act normal, don't look shady,
What if I say the wrong thing?
I know. So that was pretty crazy. So if you are flying domestically in Israel, give yourself plenty of time. Because
be prepared.
We met people, actually, when we got to Petra, who were supposed to be on our tour, but they missed the flight because of this type of security check, and they had to catch the next flight and then eventually catch up with us. So,
but they were able to catch up though, because we sat at the border
again. The border was terrible.
For like 3 hours.
Yeah, because the border was so bad. So they've got to sort that out. There were just way too many of us, and the process just took too long. We were just in transit for far too long, and just kind of like sitting around, like, really, come on, let's get there, and it just took forever.
The amount of time that we were actually in the park where the treasury is was 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 to 3 hours, I guess.
And we were gone from 5 a.m. and got back at 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, that just, it doesn't make sense. And we paid...
It's like $500.
$500,
yeah.
But that's not including the visas.
Not including the visa or the border tax. There's also a border tax. The visa is like $60, and the border tax is like $65. It was expensive. Yeah.
I wasn't happy because it just broke the budget.
Even though I knew all this, and I told everyone before, okay, because you have to pay in cash when you get to the border, so you need US dollars or euro is what they prefer. You can also pay in shekel as well. Right? So those are the 3 currencies that they'll take.
It was not worth it paying in euro though. The currency exchange that they give it's off.
It was bad.
It's off for sure. Mm-hmm. Maybe USD is the best to pay in, and then shekel.
Yeah,
depends on the exchange rate. But currently, the exchange rate that they're asking for in USD to euro is way off.
So definitely plan to have cash with you, and this is going even going if you were to go across the border in the northern part to get to Amman. I've read there's the same thing. Like, you will have this border tax and the visa and stuff. So just make sure that you bring cash with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think they do it at all for the flights. I think you can fly from Tel Aviv to Amman.
Right. I think that's just built into the flight.
The tickets, maybe.
Yeah, built in the tickets. Or, they just do a land border tax.
Right.
Which is different.
Yeah, because you've got to staff extra people there, maybe. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. The Petra tour itself that we took is not worth the money. It's not worth the money because of all the time that's wasted at the border. I think it would probably be better if you just flew into Amman and took some sort of tour from Amman down to Petra and then back to Amman, or maybe even stayed the night over, 1, maybe 2 nights in Petra or in the area around Petra, because there are some nice international class hotels that you can find accommodations in. I'm sure they're pricey, but it'll probably be a much more enjoyable trip. Once we arrived into Jordan and hit the road, we were greeted by some really nice sights. It was a mix between mountainous and desert terrain, and we saw a lot of construction on the way. When we arrived in Petra, we quickly went through the Welcome Center, and we were really told to follow our guides and kind of stay close as a group. It's a pretty long walk down to where the actual treasury is, and along the way we were told to not spend too much time taking photos and taking in the sights, because if there was anything interesting that we wanted to take pictures of, we should wait until we come back out to take those pictures. However, nobody really listened to this advice. A couple of times on the way down, the tour guide would stop and he would wait and gather everybody together to give bits of information about the different parts of Petra that we were seeing. Along the way, there were people that were offering to let you ride either donkeys or horses. It was amazing seeing some of the structures that people were able to build. There was also a gift shop where you could find different figurines, statues, pieces of artwork, and postcards. One thing we had to be mindful of is the horse carts or the donkey carts that would go rushing by us as we walked down. The walls of the canyon were really, really high. It was really impressive. We would run our hands along the rock. It was so interesting. It was such a great experience. Now what was cool is we got to so many different bins where we would see people taking pictures, and it was like there was this crazy buildup of, are we going to turn this corner and see the treasury, this thing that all of us have paid a bunch of money and had on our bucket list to see.
It's incredible to see that people such a long time ago were able to build homes and things into the actual rock.
And it wasn't until maybe the dozen or second dozen time that we got to one of these bins where we finally saw the massive treasury. It's such an impressive structure. It's unbelievably tall. I mean, you really have to be there standing in front of it to get the magnitude. I don't think that the pictures really do it justice. Beyond the treasury, another form of structures is off to the right. So after we took in the treasury and listened to the tour guides talk about it for a little bit, we took off and started walking down to the right past the treasury, and there were several different things that were going on down there. There was an amphitheater, a spot where they said that an old market was. It looked like back in the day that Petra was probably, a really cool place to be, a really bustling place.
All in all, seeing Petra was amazing. I would definitely recommend it. It's a place that you just have to see at least once in a lifetime. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and check out our other videos from our winter travels.